Hi guys, welcome. If you're new here, my name's Nikki. I'm a beekeeper and I make beekeeping videos. If that's something you like watching, then hit the subscribe button. If you're one of my returning subscribers, thank you so much for coming back and listening to what I have to say. I really appreciate it. It's been a pretty long time since I've done a video, so I thought I would do one and kind of give you a quick update on how things have been going, how my winter was, and go in for the first time on the hive that I did a series on last year and really take a look and see how they're doing. So today is March 5th. It is mid-70s here in Ohio. It's a little bit windy today, as you can probably hear. The wind kind of comes and goes a bit. I think we'll be okay to do the inspection on these girls. They do have a little bit of a tree line behind us, which helps a little. As I said before, I've been in here over the winter. We had a pretty warm December, a lot of days in the 60s, so I did peek in on them quite a bit. I do check in on them periodically, but that doesn't really go beyond just opening the outer and inner cover and giving them sugar if they need it. So I don't actually get down inside the hive in the winter. So this is gonna be the first time we're gonna do that. We can tell, obviously, we can see that they're flying, so the bees are still alive. They look to be doing pretty well, but we're gonna go in and see what they've got in the hive as far as resources. We're gonna see if they're already starting to, the queen's laying eggs, if they have brood in there. I'm gonna look for signs of any mites or any other critters that might have gotten into the hive over the winter. And then when we get done and I pack that all up, I'll kind of go over a channel update at the end of the video if you're interested in staying and watching that. I'm gonna get my suit on and we'll get started. Let's get in here and see what these ladies have been up to. So I have been in the hive a couple of times over the winter, but not much beyond just kind of opening them up and making sure they're okay on some of our really warm days, giving them some sugar if they need it. But today, hopefully, we're going to get a chance to completely go through this hive and see how they've done over winter. I don't know why, there's just something exciting about the first time that you get to go through your hives at the beginning of the year. And I'm going to check for my queen. There is no queen excluder on the hive because they've been overwintering and they don't have a super on. So there are a lot of bees in here. You can see I still have some sugar on here that I've given to them. You can see here kind of some remnants of newspaper where they previously had sugar and they have eaten through the newspaper. And when you put them on, they will chew through the newspaper and kind of drag it out of their hive. And then all you really have to do is do a little bit of cleanup. They'll drag it right out in front for you and make it super convenient. Give them a little bit of smoke. So I'm just going to remove this, take some time to remove this newspaper here. I'll try to remove it. Kind of one piece here. There we go. We still have some honey. So what I'm going to do is grab the camera and just kind of give you a shot down into the hive so you can see how many bees that are currently in here. Just give you kind of my view of the cluster here and how many bees looking down into the hive. Most of my clusters here on this side, I didn't know that prior to placing the camera. I am going to start from this side and go through and just look and see what we got going on inside the hive. Got a couple bees that are not too happy. I don't think I have much on this outer frame, and it feels pretty light. Yep, so we just have this empty outer frame here. Kind of look back through the last week on this hive and see how much resource they had in here. They had a pretty good amount. And this is not my favorite hive tool. I like the hive tool that's kind of the J hook. And somewhere over the winter I have misplaced that. And this is not my favorite hive tool. It still works, but so we have a frame here. They still have a pretty good amount of honey on the outside of it. I'm trying to look and see if I can see anything else here in the center. And looks like they've got a pretty decent amount of honey on this frame here. I'll show you. Still have some honey. Kind of chipped away at the inside. Give them a little bit of smoke. This hive's got a pretty decent population for coming out of winter. There's still a considerable amount of bees down here in the bottom box that I can see. Of course, I've kind of driven some of them down there. Well, hello. We've got a couple ladies on me. Oh, heavy frame. Got another frame of honey. Another frame. Looks like sort of in the center of the frame they've kind of really eaten through. There is still some uncapped honey there that they're working on, but still a lot of capped honey on this frame. There you go. Gonna be looking at the bottom for queen cells. They still have a ton of resources left. Look at that. They probably didn't need that sugar that I gave them, but you can look at the honey that's in here. But I'd rather be safe than sorry. If I do remember correctly, this hive still had some frames that were pretty empty, and I did swap them out when I closed up the hive for winter with a couple frames from some of my hives that overproduce, and that seems like it was a good choice. Another pretty heavy frame of honey. We've gotten through most of this one. So this one they've kind of gotten through most of. Still a little bit of capped honey, but this side has a lot of capped honey as well. I'm guessing, so the clusters here on this side, as we start to get to these frames, there's probably not going to be a lot of honey left in those. As I said, looking at the frames, they probably didn't need that extra sugar, but it's better to be safe than sorry. We had a really, we've got to be with some pollen on her. Yep, so this frame is pretty much empty at this point. We've gone through most of the honey on this frame. This one as well. I'm just taking a peek here for my queen. Ooh, yeah, definitely some pollen. A couple of these bees. I'm also kind of looking for mites. Let's see if I see any. So they've pretty much gone through the honey on this frame. Both sides. Tiny amount left, but what's on there is pretty small amount. Seriously, starting at about January, I start to get really anxious and excited to come out and do this. And we do get some days, we've had some days that have been up in the 60s, but the following days were back down in the 30s, and so I just didn't feel comfortable opening them up for it just to get cold again. This frame is empty. No honey on this side. Still checking for my queen. Actually, not really. Oh, we've got capped brood in here. Got kind of blow them away so you can see. A couple more beads with some pollen on them. Got a drone cell. And just checking for my queen, guys. Looking to see if those are queen cells on the bottom. Definitely capped brood here. We blow them away so you can see. So right there up at the top we've got some capped brood. Trying to blow them away a little bit to see if I can see any eggs, and that side's pretty empty. And there are eggs on this frame, on this side. So the queen is laying again. And after I wrap up, we'll kind of talk about whether that's good or bad, or what we can do to help them. I think there are some people who think that the queen doesn't lay at all in the wintertime, and that's not entirely true. Ooh, they're getting fired up. Kind of over to the cluster here, so they're getting a little fired up. This frame feels pretty empty. We've got capped brood, some uncapped larvae. We've got eggs. Very, very few cells of pollen. Maybe down in the bottom box we'll see a little bit different. But we do here have, I apologize for the camera angle, guys. I didn't know I was going to go in this way when I set the camera up. This side we have some capped brood, some uncapped larvae, and some eggs on this side. Oh, I had that backwards. This side we have that. The back side's pretty much empty. See if I can blow them away. You can see there. So there's our larva. Capped brood. On the uncapped larva, I'll just kind of scan here and see if I see any mites in there. I'm definitely gonna be looking for queen cells in this hive, given that they're already capped brood in here. Many months without me interrupting them, and they're like, she's back again. So this side here, I've got a little bit of pollen. I don't see any eggs. It looks like a little bit of honey still here. And this side looks like Was a little bit of honey. Not much going on. No eggs on this frame. No eggs, no larvae. So there's that side. And that side. And as I scan the bees, I'm just kind of looking for any signs of mites. I look at their wings, kind of look at the shape of their body. And they look pretty good. Last frame up top. I know. And this is a heavy frame. Lots of honey still on this frame. Looking for queen cells at the bottom. Just looks like burr comb. And they've gotten through a lot of the honey on this side, but there's still a pretty good amount. It's a pretty decent amount of honey to still be in the hive at the end of winter. So they have conserved their resources pretty nicely. So I'm going to put this box back together, pull it off, and we're going to take a look down in the bottom one. Okay, let's take a look down here in the bottom box. There's still a pretty decent amount of bees down here. First glance, it looks kind of empty. It's really what I expect it to be. They'll start filling this up with brood and making bee bread. Really fertilized down here. Outer frame, really empty. Kind of an empty frame out here. This is what it was when we closed it up at the end of last year. Not much to see there. Lots of bees out here in front. As I look down at the bottom, I just kind of check the bottom board and see kind of what's going on down there. A little bit of honey left in this frame. This frame did look like it had honey in it. It is gone now. It's pretty empty. You can see just a tiny bit of capped honey there on the outer corner. And that frame looks pretty empty. I've got them all stirred up. I moved to this side to get a better camera angle, and they kind of followed me over here. They do not, kind of just let me know they do not want me here. That's all right. So empty frame here. Few little cells of capped honey still left over. This frame is empty as well. The bees look really good. They physically look well. So you see empty frame there. Just a couple cells of capped honey on this side. You would think after an entire last year of filming I would not put my smoker in the way. Yet I have not kicked that habit. I'm surprised Kiwi's not out here with me today. She was in a lot of, that's my cat, for anybody who hasn't seen the previous videos. And she likes to come out when I work the bees. However, when you see her, she looks quite a bit different. She took full advantage of winter, and she got a little fat. So empty cells here, and this is empty as well. I'll kind of show you there. I'm not going to walk it up. There's really nothing to look at on that side. They're empty. Get better light. These are empty. The empty bottom frames is kind of what you expect to see. And that one's empty as well. For any of my beekeeper friends on here who watch this, let me know how you did with your bees this winter. I lost one hive this winter, which is really good comparatively. I have a couple beekeeper friends in my same county that lost a lot more, and it's always super sad when that happens. Empty frames here. Looking for eggs. I don't see any eggs. Looks like they're just going to be up in that top box. Same on this side, empty frames. I don't see any signs of wax moths, anything like that, so it looks good. As I said in the intro, I had a lot of stuff going on the end of fall into winter that I really just didn't have time to film. And I had wanted to do some videos showing what I do to overwinter, so I might just do a quick video talking about that. I'm kind of a minimalist when it comes to overwintering, and I adjust what I do based on the weather itself. So I may just do a video talking about what I did. There's a little, this frame has a little bit of pollen, not much. The rest of the cells are empty. This is really the first pollen I've seen down here, and they do have brood up in the top. So I will look at the weather to kind of guide me on what I'm going to do there. I'm terrible about looking at the weather. Oh, we got another. This frame has some pollen in it. This frame has a little bit more. I'll bring that up and show you. I didn't show you the last one. I kind of got in a zone here. Tiny amount on this side. Still not enough pollen really with the amount of brood that they have up there. So there's pollen on this side, pollen on that side. Now I'm looking at the end on the bottom board, and there's one little piece of newspaper. They really do a good job at dragging that out of the hive. So there's one tiny little piece. Two more, girls, that's all we got. And I'll let you guys get back at it. Got a frame with pollen here, and just a tiny couple cells there. I've not specifically seen my queen, but there are eggs in here. They look like definitely they were laid by her. They don't look like they were laid by a worker. And our last frame to look at. Probably going to be pretty uneventful, but and a couple sporadic cells of pollen here, and empty frame here. So I'll show you a little bit of pollen. A little bit of pollen there. That side's empty. So I'm going to put it back together, and then we'll talk about this inspection and what we're going to do kind of moving forward with these ladies as they go into spring. Okay guys, we're all done going through this hive. They look really, really good. They do have some, quite a bit of honey actually still left in there. That bottom box is pretty empty. That's really to be expected. They kind of move up throughout the winter, so that's normal if you're a first-time beekeeper to see them up in that top box and a really empty bottom box. I'm not going to do it today because I do have some cold temperatures that are going to be coming, but I will go in at some point if I flip those boxes and clean that bottom board for them. I didn't want to stress them out too much today. You can see that they got a little kind of worked up during the inspection. They were not bad though, but we haven't been in here and messed with them in months and months, and so they've really gotten used to that solitude. So it's not abnormal to have your bees get a little irritated with you the first time you go in to do an inspection, but they typically calm down as you start to go into the hives week by week, and they get a little bit more used to your presence again. Again though, they weren't really, really bad. Just a little bit of defensive behavior. They do have brood in this hive, which a lot of people think that bees don't produce brood in the winter, but they sometimes do, and sometimes early spring. I'll probably do a separate video and talk about whether that's good or bad and things that we can do to help them. Now, if you noticed from the beginning of the video, these bees are clustered around where they've laid the brood in the hive, and that's normal. They want to stay there and keep the hive warm, or the brood warm. One of the things I did when I put them back together is you kind of had about four frames that they had really used all the resources, and the queen was laying there, and it was kind of two frames in the middle they had laid in, and then, or she had laid in, and two frames on the outside of that really didn't have any resources in them. So when I put the hive back together, I did take those two empty frames and put honey frames beside there, because bees will not typically break cluster if it gets to a certain temperature and move away from that brood. So you see beekeepers a lot of times will go in, they'll have it dead out, and they have plenty of honey, plenty of resources in the hive, and they can't really figure out why the bees died or why they starved, and that sometimes could be a reason. So bees will not often leave that brood nest and go and eat or move around the hive to get that honey if it's going to risk not keeping that brood warm, and there are fresh eggs in there. So our temps here aren't going to stay up into the 70s. We're going to drop back down again and have some days into the 30s, into the 40s, and overnight even colder. So I did push a couple of those frames of honey inward to them so they don't have to go far to get them. But hopefully we'll start to see temps come up, and that won't be an issue for us going forward this year. Give you a little kind of channel update. I really had hoped to do some different videos at the end of fall, but unfortunately life kind of got in the way of that. I am not a full-time beekeeper. I do work full-time and have a family as well, and I just had work got a little bit crazy, and I had some sick kiddos, so I wasn't able to make the content toward the end of the year that I really wanted to. Hopefully this year we'll kind of get back on track and really get some different content out there. Definitely this year coming up, I'm going to do some overwintering videos. I do have a more conservative, minimalist approach to overwintering, and I'll talk about that with you guys. If you have any questions about it, always feel free to leave them down in the comment section as well. If there's any videos that you want to see or any questions you have, put that down there as well. I am a little excited. So at the beginning of fall, I did kind of scope out some feral hives that we have here on our property, and going to check to hope and see that if they overwintered successfully, that we'll go in and be able to remove those, show you those videos of us doing that, or me doing that. And I'm going to do some splits and a couple new things this bee season that I'd like to share with you guys. So as always, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. I hope everybody has a great day.